Thanks for joining us for this late edition of ViuTV News. I'm Patrick Pock in Hong Kong. Coming up on tonight's show, at least 6 people have been killed after a huge fire engulfs a block of flats in London, trapping residents inside. Hong Kong's top court rejects appeal bids by property tycoon billionaire Thomas Kwok. And government hits back at claims it's drowning out voices of Hong Kongers by allowing a pro-Beijing group to use Victoria Park on July 1st. All right, we begin with the latest from London. Firefighters are still battling the massive blaze that broke out in a West London apartment block in the early hours of Wednesday. So far, at least 6 people have been confirmed dead and dozens have been hospitalised. Here's Graham Mackay with more.
Can you please move back, everybody? Anybody who is speaking to the building, they need to ring 999.
Chaos at a West London apartment block as a raging fire tears through the 27-storey building, potentially trapping residents inside a towering inferno. 200 firefighters and more than 20 ambulance crews have been rushed to battle the blaze, which broke out in the early hours of Wednesday.
Quick, guys! Quick, guys!
Heavy smoke and flames still visible as the sun came up. Reuters' Toby Melville is on the scene.
The water hoses going up the bottom levels of the building. Police helicopter circling overhead. Huge plumes of smoke. The building itself must be 50 to 100 metres high, and it appears to be the whole building that is still in flames. Fear is the building that is full of people that were presumably asleep at the time, so rather than a warehouse fire or something like that.
Some residents lucky enough to make it out have been speaking about the horror they witnessed.
Obviously, people were still sleeping on the higher floors, so they didn't have a clue what was going on. I'm not even sure if half of them got out, to be honest with you. There was kids at the window, there was people flashing their phone lights for help, but the fire brigade couldn't get upstairs.
Police say a number of people have been injured. So far, there's no clear sign of what started the blaze.
OK, for the latest on the blaze, we have with us our London correspondent, Angeline Ong. Angeline, we understand local authorities spoke to the press a short while ago. What did they say?
Yes, Patrick, we're now hearing more details about this devastating fire in this quite prominent apartment building in the west of London. Authorities have confirmed that 6 people are dead, but that being said, that number is expected to rise in the coming hours. There are dozens of people still missing as firefighters scramble to put out this fire completely. It took hold at around 1 a.m. this morning, but we can still see a lot of smoke billowing out of the building this afternoon. It's a massive blaze that's ripped through this 24-storey apartment block. We know that so far around 70 people have been taken to hospital, 20 of those reportedly in critical condition. And witnesses have described some very harrowing scenes, people screaming and trying to climb out of windows because they were trapped by smoke and flames. Others calling out for loved ones who were still stuck inside the building. It was feared earlier on that the building may collapse, but that concern has been lifted with structural engineers keeping a close watch on the situation. Now, this building is around 43 years old, but it had recently gone through repairs and renovation to the tune of around £10 million. But we're hearing from witnesses that the central fire alarm did go off, but was inaudible to tenants. In fact, one witness has described only being alerted when he heard the sirens of the emergency services. Now, a lot of those who live in the block also saying they were told to stay put. A local residents' association had previously warned it was worried about the risk of a serious fire in the block. London Mayor Sadiq Khan says questions need to be answered over the safety of tower blocks in general. So an awful lot of questions surrounding this incident, and there's likely to be quite a lengthy investigation into the cause of this fire and how it took hold so very quickly. Back to you.
All right, thanks very much indeed for that, Angeline Ong there in London. Now, turning to local news, the quarter-final appeal today closed the curtain on one of the most high-profile corruption cases in Hong Kong history. It upheld the graft conviction of former Sunongay co-chairman Thomas Kwok and former Chief Secretary Raphael Ho. The pair was sent to jail for conspiracy to commit misconduct in public office. The court heard Kwok offered $8.5 million to the former Chief Secretary through 2 middlemen before Ho took office. In handing down judgment, the panel of 5 judges said Ho placed himself in gold fetters and his independence as the chief secretary was hopelessly compromised. The judges dismissed the appeals. Kwok, who was released on bail pending the appeal, was ordered to return to jail to see out his 5-year term.
We respect the court's decision, and even if we do not understand or agree, we respect the court's decision. And even though there are some grievances, I don't think it matters anymore. That even though we think that the trial that there was a lot of misdirection to the jury in the original trial that led to an unsafe verdict.
Now, the government's hit back at accusations it's drowning out the voices of Hong Kongers by allowing a pro-Beijing group to use Victoria Park to celebrate the city's 20th handover anniversary. This after the administration rejected the Civil Human Rights Front's application to use the park as the starting point of the annual July 1st rally. The venue was allocated to the Hong Kong Celebrations Association instead. In a Legislative Council meeting, Secretary for Home Affairs Lau Kong-wah said the Leisure and Cultural Services Department has a mechanism for approving these applications.
A number of organizations submitted applications to use the venue 3 months ago. In sorting out these applications, priority was given to charities who have applied.
Meantime, the government's played down concerns over its definition of grassroots workers. This comes after the Labour chief announced yesterday companies must sign contracts with grassroots employees who earn less than $11,000 a month on overtime work. Chief Secretary Matthew Cheung said today the salary level could be adjusted as the law's not expected to be implemented until 2020. Aside from the newly defined grassroots workers, the government also came under fire for failing to legislate standard working hours. The Labour and Welfare chief denies favouring big business.
We have to strike a balance here. We have to ensure while employees benefit, businesses will be able to afford the extra expenses and Hong Kong's economy won't be affected.
All right, news elsewhere next. And in the next instalment of the Russia probe in the US, it was Attorney General Jeff Sessions' turn to be questioned. He denounced what he called a detestable lie, the idea he colluded with Russians meddling in the 2016 election. Sessions also clashed with Democratic lawmakers over his refusal to detail his conversations with President Donald Trump. A senior member of Trump's cabinet, Sessions faced 2.5 hours of tense exchanges with the Democrats.
Senator Wyden, I am not stonewalling. I am following the historic policies of the Department of Justice. You don't walk into any hearing or committee meeting and reveal confidential communications with the President of the United States, who's entitled to receive confidential communications in your best judgment about a host of issues, and have to be accused of stonewalling for not answering them. So I would push back on that. Second.
All right, time now for the latest from the world of business. Well, there was plenty of caution sweeping across Hong Kong's market as investors sweat on the US Federal Reserve's interest rates decision. The Hang Seng Index was virtually flat, closing at 25,875 points. A big reason for this is that whatever the Fed does, you can expect Hong Kong's monetary authority to do the same. Tech stocks continued to bounce back from the nightmare on Wall Street, with the sector adding about 1%. China's economy is proving its resilience. Industrial output grew 6.5% in May, which is better than expected. Analysts polled by Reuters were predicting the sector to drop back slightly from April. More shoppers are spending as well, with retail sales up 10.7% on last May. But fixed asset investment came in below forecasts, up 8.6% for the first 5 months of the year. China has cut its economic growth targets to about 6.5% this year, giving policymakers more room to push through harsh reforms. And now to the curious case of Chinese insurance giant Anbang and the whereabouts of its chairman. The company says Wu Xiaohui has stepped aside for personal reasons, but won't confirm whether that's because he's in trouble with the government. Samantha Vardas explains.
The whereabouts of a high-profile Chinese businessman fueling speculation on Wednesday after Anbang Insurance Group said its chairman, Wu Xiaohui, was no longer able to fulfill his duties. It comes just a week after reports suggested Wu had been barred from leaving the country, although the company's vague message says he stepped aside for personal reasons. Hours earlier, Chinese magazine Caijing published a story saying Wu had been taken away for investigation, but that story was removed shortly after it was posted online. Wu is politically connected in China and also has ties to Wall Street and has been linked to a property deal involving Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. His company only opened its doors in 2004, but manages almost $250 billion worth of assets and has become known for its aggressive overseas buying sprees, which include New York's Waldorf Astoria Hotel. But it hasn't all been smooth sailing. Anbang has recently failed to close on a handful of investments and is facing criticism over its opaque structure. Speculation over Wu's well-being comes as Chinese business circles are already on edge after the mysterious disappearance of a China-born billionaire earlier this year. Calls to Wu's personal phone have gone unanswered.
Now, when it comes to timing, it seems Uber's couldn't get any worse. One of its directors has quit over a sexist remark blurted out at a meeting to discuss the company's dwindling reputation. Grace Lee reports.
Uber announcing director David Bonderman's resignation on Tuesday after a comment he made about women at a staff meeting kicked up a storm of controversy. Board members, including Arianna Huffington, had gathered to discuss how the company would fix its image after a recent probe into sexual harassment. But while Huffington was talking about the importance of adding women to the board, Bonderman chipped in by saying that would only result in a lot more talking. News of his departure comes as Uber founder and CEO Travis Kalanick confirms he's also leaving temporarily as the company tries to claw its way back from a series of scandals. He says he needs time to grieve for his recently deceased mother and work on his leadership.